Welcome to Misfits and Mystics podcast, where we have conversations intersecting faith, mental health, artistry, and social justice. We're so glad you're here. So get cozy.
But not too cozy, because we do keep it real on this podcast.
Listen with care.
And enjoy. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay. Hey, girl, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Blessed and highly favored.
Yes, absolutely. So, let's get right into it. But before we get right into it, we're actually going to start this with a game this week. We're going to play Two Truths and a Lie, the concert edition. So I actually saw this on Twitter, and I absolutely would give credit to the person who started it, but I don't know their name because I saw it and I kept going, scrolled past it, and then I literally didn't think about it until today, and I think I saw that 2 days ago. So shout out to that person. I'm not taking the credit. But yes, Two Truths and a Lie, concert edition. So you ready?
I am so ready. I'm excited.
Okay, you go ahead and start with yours.
Okay, so my first round, I guess, I have Georgia Smith, Ty Tribbett, and Beyonce.
Yikes. Woo. Wow. I realize now we've never talked about concerts besides the one we went to together.
I know.
Oh, wow. I'm going to guess that you have not been to see Beyonce.
That is correct.
Hey. Only because I feel like if you did, I would definitely know about it.
Yeah, I almost did. My brother almost bought us tickets and then was like, nah. I know.
He bogus. Y'all could have went.
Yeah.
But okay, I have 1 point. Okay. Now, are you ready for my first round?
I am ready.
Okay. Layla Hathaway, Megan Thee Stallion, and Chance the Rapper.
I'm going to go with Megan Thee Stallion.
That's correct, and that just made me so sad because why haven't I been to see her? It's okay.
I think this is a testament that I'm like, I creep on you on social media more than I thought I did. Because I immediately was like, I definitely remember you posting about Chance and Layla.
Yeah.
Like a while ago.
That's true. Okay. You know me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this one I have Usher, Jax Mannequin, and Jill Scott.
What the fuck? Usher, Jax Mannequin, and Jill Scott. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I'm going to say Jill.
You're right.
Listen, I'm good, okay? That's all I'm saying.
And it's sad because I'm pretty sure Jill Scott lives here in Franklin, Tennessee.
Girl.
So, like, I want to see her in concert
one day. You need to
be
at her house.
Please take me. Girl, basically, I hope to run into her at the grocery store. Okay?
That would be amazing. That would be really amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so I have Solange, Kanye West, and Beyonce.
Oh, this is hard.
Mm-hmm. I knew I'd get you with this one.
Wait, okay, Solange, Kanye, or Beyonce? Kanye? I knew. Why would I say that? Because Kanye's from your neck of the woods. Of course you'd see.
But the crazy thing is I only saw him for a quick moment. I never went to like a full concert. But he was actually at Chance the Rapper's Magnificent Coloring Day. He was the special guest, well, the secret guest. And that's when, if anybody has
Oh.
seen videos from that day, or if you were there, the left side of the stadium, which is the right side of the stage, started jumping down over the porta potties, and people broke their legs. It was crazy. But I just want y'all to know that I was a part of those people who jumped down, and I just thank God for balance. I think for these strong
Yes.
legs and somewhat strong enough ankles, they were stronger than I thought because they did not break that day.
Well, you're a dancer,
Yes,
so you know how to roll through the
exactly.
feet when you
I
land.
was just like, how did you land? Because it was crazy. When I jumped, there was a guy who was right next to me. We jumped at the exact same time, and it wasn't even on purpose. We jumped at the same time, and he fell. He didn't hurt
Mm.
himself, but like it was like he landed on his feet, but then he like immediately fell, and I was like, what? I wish I had video because I really wanted to assess what he did. Like,
Praise God for dance training.
listen,
Okay.
man, I was so grateful that day. And then we ran over there to the main crowd, and security and police were trying to stop everybody. But it was literally a stampede. They couldn't do nothing but start saving the people who hurt themselves. Somebody fell between
Jesus.
the porta potties and broke their leg. I said, wow.
Wait, all this for Kanye
Well, it was
West?
because like, Magnificent Coloring Day was a festival, so there were so many different
Right.
artists, and at that time, I think that's when Chance first came out. So we were already excited. Or he might have been out for a while, but it was just like the energy, and this is the crazy part. I'm not even a huge Kanye fan, not recent. Like I love his old music, but I was like, I remember saying like, if it's Kanye, then I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be cool, but it ain't gonna be that that exciting. But he came out and they sang or raps. What's that song? Shoot.
The,
I'm trying to
the one
keep
that he
my
was
head.
ultralight
Ultralight
beam.
beam. That's what they. So imagine if you know that song, the bass like bumping through the entire stadium. Yeah, so it was
Yes.
just the energy of that. Plus, I was with my sister and my cousin, and they're really big Kanye fans. So like their adrenaline just kind of rushed through me, and I'm like, "Let's go, we jumping!" And it was
Wow.
amazing.
Okay, so this is telling me that both of us need to save our dollars and go to a Beyonce concert
Absolutely.
together.
I never. So this is the thing. I never wanted to go because I don't know. I just never wanted to go. But now I kind of realize that I think part of the reason I didn't want to go is because Beyonce is so huge that she always has to have her concerts in like stadiums and stuff.
Right.
And it's hit or miss. Like some days I'll be super cool. I love the crowd. I love the people. And then other days I'm like, you would think that I have social anxiety because I just can't. Like it's just too much for
Mm.
me. So I'm like, I never wanted to buy a ticket and then be around all those people and I can't enjoy the experience because I'm like constantly looking around and like feeling nervous, who's around me, all that type of stuff. But I was like, you know what? I just need to get over it and just go. I just need to get lit before I go and I'll be fine. That always calms me. Like as long as I'm lit, then like whatever. I don't care.
I feel you. No, but I feel like it once like she comes out,
Oh
it's like all
yeah.
worry
Yeah,
will wash away. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm down.
So I have 2 points. You have 1 point?
Yeah.
Oh, womp, womp. I want to hear your last round though.
Okay. My last round is Backstreet Boys, Judith McAllister, and Base Camp.
I'm like really thinking. I was gonna say Judith, but then you said the last one, and I was like, I, I'm actually gonna go with the last one,
With Base
Base Camp.
Camp? That's
I figured it was
wrong.
wrong. Who did you not see?
I
Backstreet?
did not see
Oh
Backstreet
my
Boys.
gosh! I was listen. My father always told me go with your first mind, and what did I do? I went with my third mind,
That's a word. That's a
like an
word.
idiot. It's okay.
Yeah.
That was good. That was a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've never been to Backstreet Boys. Kathy has though, and maybe that's why you were thinking because I think I like almost went with her one time, and I was like, money, money, money.
Hello. Shoot. I'm working on it now. I need to go to some more concerts this year. Who did I go to besides
Same.
Taking the Bangers? I feel like I've been to somebody else this year already. Or maybe that was last year.
You went to
Oh,
her.
yeah. Girl. Oh, my gosh. Her. I think that was my favorite. I think her, and as much as I love Tank, but I think her and Layla Hathaway. But that wasn't this year. Just in general, all the concerts I've been to, I think her and Layla Hathaway have been my top. Like when I say mesmerized, stuck,
Yeah.
like astonished, just I couldn't. But I could because it was beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was fun. Are you ready
Yes.
to get into this week's episode?
I am so ready. I'm so excited
So
to know what you have planned.
yes. So this week we are talking about energy. We're talking about it in the form of mental health and how our energy that comes with mental health, that comes through mental health or the lack thereof, all surrounding mental health, how those things affect our relationships with others. So I think this is something that we both can definitely say plenty on. So
Yes.
much. I mean, the stories. Um, but I wanted to talk about it in two different ways. So you being actually diagnosed, and then me somewhat having like I get like a kind of diagnosis, like generalized anxiety. Um, but I don't know, maybe you can tell me, is that an actual, like if I went to somewhere else and they were like, do you have any diagnosis for anything? Like, would I say that? Because I wouldn't think to say that.
Um, yes. Well, it depends. I guess, were you diagnosed, like, have you seen an actual physician or psychiatrist or like a mental health professional that would be qualified to diagnose you with an actual mental illness? Because general anxiety is a legit like mental
Mm-hmm.
illness. So if your physician or a psychiatrist who has like prescribed you with medication has like told you like you have generalized anxiety and therefore these are the things that we're going to do as part of your treatment plan, then yes. um I don't really know for sure. um all I know is I was hospitalized and then a psychiatrist diagnosed me, like gave me a definite diagnosis, and then that was confirmed once I like returned to my physician.
Mm-hmm.
And like I had like a treatment team, so my regular physician, a psychiatrist, and then I later found a therapist who was a licensed psychologist. So
Okay.
yeah.
So no, yes and no. Um, it was a couple years back when I was uh, really in a depression, but like I think it was the first time that I think that's when I really started to learn about what anxiety was and what it could look like. And I realized that like I had been going through these things basically my whole life. Like the main thing was my breathing. Growing up, my breathing was always like consistently off. Like if I got, some type of nervous or anxious before I really knew that it was like being anxious, um, I struggled a lot with my breathing. Like I literally could just be sitting there in class and I would feel like it was hard to breathe, but like after a while, because it was happening for so long, I thought that that was just like how my body was. So once I learned what anxiety was and why my breathing changed, because of course there were times where I didn't breathe that way and I was breathing freely. Um, I think it was at a time in college where like I was really, really struggling to breathe. And then of course, being a dance major, breathing is everything. And so I was getting really frustrated because they would be in class and it was, it was a tough thing for all of us. They would always be like, you are not breathing. Everybody would be like, you already know. So, but there were times even with that exhale, I still felt like I was not breathing. And so I started getting really frustrated because I'm like, something is wrong. Like it literally felt like if you could picture your heart like as flat, and when you inhale, then it, inflates all the way to what, let's just say like what a heart looks like when you draw out a heart. And then that exhale, mine was like not flat, but like a little bit up. And then when I would inhale, it would only inflate maybe like halfway. And then the exhale would never fully exhale. It was like, like it was never where breathing should be. And so I was just like, bro, they're telling me to breathe in these freaking classes and I can't do it. Like getting so mad because I really wanted to breathe. And also it was hard. Like it made things harder for me because I'm like, I know I can get so much higher on this leap. I could do this, I could do that. But like, I know that my breathing is what's stopping me from that full potential. So, I mean, it was good that dance brought me to that, to be like, what's going on? But also that's also when I really started having knee issues. And so it was so bad I had to go to the doctor for it. And they do like they ask like the general questions, which they actually don't even ask all the time anymore. But they used to ask the general questions like, how are you feeling? How is blah, 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 whatever. I don't even know what they ask. But I remember the nurse was asking all these questions. And for the first time, I was straight up telling her, like, no, I'm not happy. No, I don't this. No, I don't have energy for that. I don't have motivation for blah, blah, blah. And she was like, let me go get a test. So she went and got the test. I forget what the test is called, but it's just like a very quick, answer some questions to see where you are that like doctors give to you. And they were like, yeah, so I know you came in for your knee, but also this is the thing for you. So there was that. So it was never like a full, hooking me up to machines or anything. I mean, I don't know if that happens, but I'm just saying it was never anything like elaborate, but it was that. And then, last year, my anxiety started getting bad again. And so a friend of mine, who I was around often, was worried about me because she said that when she was younger, before similar situation, before she went to the doctor and everything and found out that she really has anxiety and had to get medication for it, she was like wilding out and just acting crazy on people. Well, I probably shouldn't say crazy, sorry. Just wilding out, like I said. Or even just like the fluctuation of emotions from day to day and like not being able to control emotions and stuff. She was like, yeah, just watching you, like we've only been hanging around each other for like 2 weeks and you're reminding me of myself at that time when I almost like lost it because I had anxiety and I had no idea. So she was like, I'm not saying you need medication, but I think you should at least go talk to your doctor about it. So when I went back to my doctor, it was the same doctor. She, asked me more questions and just like talking about my life, even just going back. It was just like, well, what does it feel like physically? Like, what are your thoughts like? How does this feel? How does that feel? And then she was like, yeah, I think you're right. Definitely think you need some medication. And so she put me on a medication that doubled for anxiety and depression. Because also at that time, I wasn't depressed anymore, but I told her I was worried about falling into depression because winter was coming. But then also, isn't that Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Yeah, the winter season was coming, but then also I was just like very stressed because I had just transitioned into my job and it just was a lot going on. And I was like, I feel myself about to like spaz and I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, I can't. I think that was also the time I mentioned before on the show where like I came home every day for like a week and balled up on my couch and was just bawling my eyes out and I could not figure out why. I think that was all around that time. So I was like, yeah, let me go. So, I mean, they just classified, as far as my medical records, just classified it as generalized anxiety disorder. But I was just kind of like, I don't know if that's, not that it's not serious, it's not important, but I'm like, I don't know if it's important for me to tell another, doctor, therapist, or if that's just something that I need to be aware of.
It's definitely legitimate and something that you probably should disclose to doctors and therapists like in the future. I mean, it's in our culture, it's probably one of the less stigmatized, even though there is still stigma around it, but like it's easier for people to understand like the elements of anxiety because everybody at some point feels anxious even without like having generalized anxiety disorder. But like when it comes to things like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or borderline personality disorder, like those types of mental illnesses are harder for people to grasp, and there's a lot more like misinformation out there about it. So most people like probably would think more of like I having a more serious problem than you, but I feel like it's not about the diagnosis, it's about how you are managing it and the help that you have access to. Because I know people who, you know, are diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder or depression, and like one could say that, ooh, bipolar disorder is like worse, but it's not, it's just different. And like I know people who are diagnosed with quote unquote like minor things, but because they don't have the support that they need, like it's easier for them to spiral, you know, versus people that I know who have disorders that seem more extreme, but they're actually very functional because, you know, they have the support that they need. They have, you know, they're consistent with their medication. They're consistent with their, whatever their treatment plan is. Cause everybody, you know, it's different for everybody. So, it really just depends on the person. So yeah, if the doctor has checked you out, then yeah, you have generalized anxiety disorder and nothing to be ashamed of about it.
I was about to say, yeah, I get.
You know, and probably should, like, it's up to you to disclose, like, with who you want to disclose that to. I mean, I guess obviously we've disclosed it to the listeners, but like, yeah, it's, to me, it's no different than like any other thing on your medical records. Like if you have a history of, like, if you have a history of heart disease in your family or whatever, you know, that's just, it's part of your health history and it is what it is. And seems like you're doing a pretty good job of like doing what you need to do to like manage it and like function. And
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've cleared that, yeah, let's get into the conversation. So I'll let you have the floor first. But basically, what we're talking about is your mental health, whether it be good or bad, the differences and how that has affected relationships with family, friends, jobs, coworkers, significant other, love interests, anything of the sort.
Who, I mean, I have struggled with my mental health since I was a child. So when it comes to family, well, first of all, I'll say that there are a lot of mental health issues, I guess, within my family history. Two of my aunts committed suicide when I was young, like really young. And even though they, to my knowledge, were never officially diagnosed with anything, it has been implied to me that at least one of those aunts like may have had bipolar disorder. At the time, it would have been called manic depression, because that's how a lot of my older family members describe it. And I do know that another aunt in my family was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Uh, so it wasn't like necessarily a surprise to my parents when I started, displaying signs of depression and mania, I guess. But I think they maybe like in the beginning, I think all of us wanted to attribute it to life adjustments. Like my mom, had a stroke when I was 8 years old. So that probably like triggered a lot of things that were already like within me, I guess. That's kind of a weird way to say it. But so I think a lot of people just thought like, oh, this is just like a response to like the trauma of dealing with a sick parent and the aftermath of those things. But I think like as time went on and, started to have more of an understanding of mental health in general, I think I realized along with my family that, okay, this is like more than that. Like there's actual chemical imbalance like in your brain. So it's definitely impacted my family relationships. Like my parents like have been generally supportive. I mean, they're nurses, and my dad actually worked on a psych floor for a little while, like early in his career. So they've been exposed to quote unquote crazy people, I guess. But it's different when it's, one of your own. And it's definitely been a journey, like helping them navigate like how to best support me. And in the beginning of me being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, when I was diagnosed, I think I was maybe 22, 23 years old. So yeah, it's like having to unlearn some of the habits of how they interact with me for 23 years and now having to like find new ways to interact with me when I'm not feeling my best or doing my best. And then I guess like with my other family members, I actually like am not as open about my mental health journey with a lot of my family. I don't know if that's just about shame or if it's just a matter of like I'm not really that close with a lot of my like distant family, like cousins and stuff. So it's like I don't even really tell them when good things are happening. So like so I think a lot of my family members are in the dark about it, or they may like know general things, but like I don't know. So the main point of impact that I have known to observe is how it affects like my friendships, because those are the people that I, aside from my parents and my brother, are the people that I interact with the most. And it's I mean I think before being diagnosed, like it definitely was a struggle because I didn't have a name for it. I couldn't claim anything. Like I was diagnosed with mild depression when I was 12 and they put me on an antidepressant for a little while. But then like things got better and I think that's when people were just like, oh, this is probably just about the trauma of like your mom being sick and now you're over it, so you're fine. But the thing about mental illness is like you do have seasons where like everything is fine, and then that doesn't mean that like there will be other days where you're not fine, and you'll need that extra support. So when I was like, whenever I was spiraling or like not doing well before like getting diagnosed, like it was difficult to explain to my friends, you know, why I was being the way I was, you know, because to them it's just like, you're just being crazy. Like, and when you're distributing like certain behaviors that come along with your symptoms. So for me, like, I'll either be in a manic state or a depressive state. Sometimes I'll be in a mixed state, and that's super fun. Not. But either I will be in a very like high energy, euphoric state, or super irritable, angry, rash, impulsive. And sometimes like those things aren't necessarily bad. Like sometimes they can come off as like me being the life of the party and just being super free, you know, which usually people celebrate in me because I am like a little more on the shy end in social situations. So whenever I am like more free and outward, you know, people are like, yeah, but sometimes people don't realize that sometimes that is the jump off point for like dark days ahead. Not all the time, but sometimes. And but then like I think it's more like noticeable obviously like in the depression state, because like, you know, not being motivated, being really sad, and, you know, just being the Debbie Downer of the group basically. And it was really difficult for my friends to relate to me and support me because I didn't really have the tools to give them to like help them explain what was happening. And then also just in general, like at the time, the conversation around mental health just wasn't as open as it is now. And I mean, we still have a long way to go with it, but I definitely have seen improvements with how people address it. So, yeah, I would say that I've lost some friends along the way. There have been friends that couldn't hack it. And I've had to process what that means and grieve the severing ties with people just kind of removing themselves. Some people doing it gradually, some people just point blank telling me like, I don't really want to be in contact with you anymore, or I don't really want to be in friendship with you anymore because, you know, you're just too much. Which I don't want to demonize anybody, and I don't want to say that they're like a bad person for doing that, because at the end of the day, sometimes when you are sick like that, like I will use the word sick, you know, you do become the toxic person sometimes. So you can't really get mad at people for wanting to take care of themselves and, you know, create the proper boundaries that they need in order to be well, you know, I guess. But at the same time, it still sucks. And it kind of makes me think like, if we had the tools, you know, to better like equip ourselves to walk through this together as two people in relationship with one another, like maybe we wouldn't have had to go through like that process of severing, you know, ties or not being friends. And maybe, and I'm a person that's like, some people come into your life for a reason and a season and all that. So like maybe the mental illness thing, like wasn't the only like factor in them like leaving my life, but you know, it is what it is. Um, but now that I have a better understanding of my disorder, and just also like being more in a healthier state, um, I would say like my friendships are really good because, and also like after getting diagnosed, it kind of set me on a path to find other people who could relate, or at the very least, like be a little bit more mature to be honest about where they're at in life and what they're willing to give and how they're willing to support me, and also being mature enough and well enough to communicate like how I can be there for them, you know? So yeah, now it's just kind of like everybody who is that I would consider a close friend of mine like knows my mental health history, and they know what to look out for, and they understand. And you know, not to say that there aren't times where there are struggles, because we're human, but it's not as like, I don't feel like I'm hanging on by like a a thread, you know, with my friendships. I feel a little more solid in them in general.
That's good.
So, yeah. 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 What about you?
Okay, so where do I want to start? I'll start with friends. Actually, no, I'm going to start with jobs / coworkers. So yeah, just to make it very basic, plain, because I'm pretty sure I've talked about it on the show. Like I said before, when I first started my job, like my career after college, it was great, but it also was a lot. And you know, any transition can be a lot. So you know, there were just days that I was like, I am so anxious and I don't like it. Can't take it. It's too much. I feel like I'm about to like throw up. Like, I think like working, I experienced some of the worst anxiety that I've ever experienced. So, you know, my usual feeling of like not being able to breathe and stuff, that was mostly what I experienced as a teenager. And I did experience some of that as an adult, but it was showing in so many other ways. One of the worst ways that it's shown that I absolutely hate. Oh my God, I hate it. Is when I'm when I'm like super angry and just snappy, like I'm literally ready to like rip somebody's head off. Um, and the reason I hate it is because I can mentally step outside of myself and be like, bro, what is wrong? Like, why? Like, control yourself. And I literally try to tell myself, like, I understand, you know, you're feeling kind of anxious, but like, you have to control yourself. Because I'm also the type of person, I don't mind apologizing, but I would rather not need to. Not saying that like I just would rather not apologize, but like I would rather not hurt you in any way or offend you in any way or even give you any type of negative feeling. And so when I do that, then it's like I said, I will apologize, but then like I struggle sometimes with forgiving myself. So I'll apologize, but then I will feel terrible because then in my mind, like I have to get over the thought process that like I can always control my emotions, especially when I'm in a space dealing with anxiety. Now in a space where I'm fine and just in normal life thing, yeah, I definitely always work on controlling my emotions. But when it comes to anxiety, baby, that thing will do what it wants to do with you, okay? So I'm
Yes,
still working on
yes.
giving myself grace to not be okay, but like trying to learn how to still manage that because in certain spaces, you know, like if I'm just home and I'm just, you know, throwing stuff, then okay, that's me, my house. If I break a glass or something, it's never gotten that bad, but still, like if I break a glass or something, then like, okay, I can deal with the aftermath of that and probably just like laugh at myself. But when I've affected other people, I really struggle with that. So there's that. Um, I don't think it definitely has caused me to snap on some students, but like I'm always snapping on students because I do. I just want them to be better. And I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? So, but no, there definitely have been times where like I've snapped on students in front of coworkers. And then I realized like in my mind, I'm like, bro, that really wasn't even that serious. But like my mind and my emotions are not connected at that time. So that feeling is, it's terrible. But it hasn't been as bad as it could have been because I learned very early on that I just have to walk away. And I'm so grateful for a job that allowed me to do so, to just, walk away and go to my office. And even better when I talk to my coworkers about, some of the things that I was feeling, excuse me, them backing me up and being like, okay, if you need a moment, like just let us know. Like, or I mean, and not even like come find us and blah, blah, blah. Cause everybody has stuff going on, but they're literally like, you can go ahead, walk out of the class, go to the office and just text us. So we at least know where you are. So the bathroom, my office, and then for a while, my coworker's office were my spots. Like I had to go and vent. I had to go and just be like, please help me understand this because I don't know. Like, am I tweaking? I had to go cry. I had to go read the Bible sometimes. I had to go pray. I had to go poop. I'm like, listen, I need something to physically come out of me so I can, visualize the anxiety leaving with it and then, try to get over a hurdle. And I mean, listen, it works. Like physical things, when you know how to connect your mental to physical movement, baby, that's a gift. And it really does help. So there's work. Friends and family, I think it's just shown and I think it's honestly more so shown in myself. I don't think that I've had too many times where anxiety has caused me to like snap on probably my family. But then again, your family just make you snap just because them niggas. I
Right.
mean, oh, the love is just so deep that the anger just goes as deep as the love, and you just be like, listen, I love you, but I'm about to hurt you. So I feel like that's a different story. So actually, let me break these up. So with that being a different story, I think it's more so shown as me holding back and not sharing with my family and not even wanting to be around them. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like as I've gotten older, when I was in the house for a while, or even when I would come home on breaks from school and stuff, my mom would want to spend time with me. And in my mind, again, he goes the disconnect. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, I definitely should spend time with my mom. And honestly, I'm kind of tired of seeing my friends. And like, I want to chill in my house because my parents' house is really comfortable. Like, literally, if you've been there, people are ready to go to sleep or they just feel the peace of God when they come to my parents' house. So going home, she's like, yep, I can vouch. So going home is very like intentional most of the time. So the fact that, I'm about to sneeze. Hold on, Jesus. And it went away. Okay. So, for a while going home was, I guess bittersweet because I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go home. And then I would get there and my anxiety and my thoughts would take me to a space of like, well, you have things that you haven't shared with your family and like you probably need to go away and get away from them before you spend time with them. They start asking questions about your life and what you're doing and blah 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 blah, and it's just like just taking you to a place that's like, okay, it's probably better to be outside of here than here, when really it's like that's not what I want to do, especially at the point where like I think it was starting to hurt my mom's feelings that I would come home and spend all of my time with my friends. And in my head, I would just be like, I really don't want to hurt my mom's feelings. I really don't want to be outside the house all the time. I do enjoy going out, but like if you know me, I'm a home booty. I would rather chill in the house. And usually that's what I was doing, going to chill at somebody else's house. But like nobody's house is as comfortable as my parents' house. So it was really hard for me. So that's just one of those things that like when I say it was more so dealing with myself, I never really like went to my mom and told her, any of this that I just said or was able to explain to her. Because then of course then I'm like, well, if I explain this, and she gonna be like, well, what are you hiding? So um it was just something that I just had to work through, which honestly I'm grateful for because it's caused me to just work through those things just for myself in general. Because I'm like, if I'm good, then my relationships will be better. And if I know that, there's nothing to hide. And honestly, some of it came from not allowing myself to grow up. And like, I mean, I've never seen myself, well, when I was a kid, of course I saw myself as a kid, but I've always been pretty mature, and as I've gotten older, I've definitely become, more mature. But it was still like this point of like, these are my parents, and you kind of can revert to like that childlike space or whatever. And so with that, the one thing that it took me a while to get out of was this thought that my parents needed to know everything about me. And so once I realized that, and I was just like, I'm running and hiding from some information that if they ask me a question, I don't have to answer. And also, I definitely had to learn just within the past couple years how to share without sharing. I've always been an oversharer. So that's why it was such a struggle for me, because I was just like, well, if somebody asks me a question, I don't like lying. I'm not a liar. So I don't want to lie. And I think I felt like withholding information was lying. Now pause. We're going to pause right there. Put a bookmark in this space. Some people would say that withholding information is lying. I don't know what to tell y'all.
No.
Especially when it comes to relationships. I personally don't agree. Now, if withholding information that I actually truly need to know, then yeah. But information that belongs to me, that's the difference. Knowing what information truly belongs to you and what information needs to be shared. And that really does depend on the relationship. Because like I said, if it's with your partner, then yes, there are certain things that you need to tell them. But my parents knowing what I'm doing, who I'm hanging out with, blah, 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 like that, that's not necessary. It's nice for them to know. My parents are not even that nosy anyway. But still, I just had to realize, like, girl, you grown. Like you can have privacy. It's okay for you to have your own secrets. Like it's okay for you to keep some of you to yourself. And the crazy part about that is once I learned that, I think this is one of the biggest lessons that I needed in order for me to truly start becoming an individual and learning like who I am right now and growing in confidence, because I didn't realize that me oversharing made me feel like I didn't belong to me. I wasn't my own person. So once I started pulling back information from people and not, telling my friends every little thing and telling this person that I'm, dating, that I'm also dating this person, like you don't need to know that unless, you go to that space. Just little things like that. Once I learned that, and I started keeping some information to myself, I was like, wait, I kind of feel like I can feel my body. Like mentally, I feel like I'm I don't know, standing more in my flesh more or something. I have no idea if that makes sense.
It does. It absolutely does.
Okay. I'm like that. I literally felt like I was, I don't know. It's an amazing feeling though.
Yeah.
So once I learned that and I've become more confident in myself, and then already, other work that I've done as a child to become confident in my physical self, like all of that work that I've done. Listen, I go home and I'm like, Mama, you want to go to the movies? You want me? Let me take you out. Let's go get your nails done. Let's do this. I'm trying to spend time around my family, even though there are still things they don't necessarily know about me. And the good thing is, me and my siblings, we try to share. Like anytime we can have all of us together, then we try to have conversations like what's going on in your life, but also like let's ask this random question. So me and my Me and my siblings this past weekend, I went home. We had a conversation, super random, about body count. Now, if you know my family, anytime I've said this, people have been like, "What? Y'all talked about body count? Excuse me?" And then, of course, they're like, "Well, who has the highest? Who has the least? Like, what is this? Was that awkward?" And so, we're definitely like, me and my siblings are always in the process of like becoming friends, and it's like a long, process that just continues, but it's good, and it shows me like there have been times where they've asked questions and it's the topic of discussion, and I'll tell them some things, but I won't tell them all of it, and I don't feel like I'm lying to them. I don't feel like, oh, I owe them this information. Like, I'm good. I'm confident in myself, and I told you what I wanted to tell you, and that's it.
Yeah.
So a lot of that anxiety with my family has kind of gone away. Really quick, I'm going to speed this up because I feel like I'm talking a lot, which is what I'm supposed to do, but like, that probably didn't make sense. But I have this quote from Miriam Hasna. That's literally her name on Instagram. I think that's her name on Twitter as well. I feel like, did I mention her before?
I feel like we have, maybe, but go ahead and like just officially like remind everybody who she is, because I love her so much.
Girl. So there's this woman by the name of Miriam Hasna. Her name is spelled Maryam, last name Hasnaa. So she usually goes by that, or they call her Haz. And so I'm not going to tell you what her official job career title is, because I don't know, but she pretty much does energy work. Now, when I first heard that, being the Christian that I am, I said, "Excuse me, we can't get down with this one, baby." But the more I looked into her, I understood it's not energy work. Like, if most Christians heard energy work, they automatically think what?
Witchcraft.
Period. Witchcraft. And yeah. This is not that. She truly like learns about how things affect you from childhood to now, going even into basically not using the exact terminology that Christians would use, but like things that we know about and we talk about, like generational curses, things of that sort. But she talks about it more from like the I guess basic format of spirituality.
Yeah.
And part of that is probably because of the fact that she knows she has such a wide audience. But if you see some of her tweets and things, every now and then she will actually show. I mean, I don't think she considers herself a Christian, but she does believe in God, and she usually does. When she does like mention God, she will sometimes mention like the God of the Bible. So there's that. That's not exactly what gave me the comfort with her. It really was just like, she just seems like a very genuine person, and like, I don't get any feels that go against anything that I believe in. But seeing those type of tweets, then it was just like, see, it honestly just made it more comfortable, because of the fact that I'm like, I feel like Christians are so easy to go to the whole witchcraft. We want to label everything that we don't understand as witchcraft, or sorcery, or whatever you want to call it. And I honestly don't believe that. I don't think that I've ever truly believed that. So seeing people who are able to understand more things, or even like me having a conversation with my dad about astronomy and how it's not a bad thing, because realistically, like, if God created the heavens and the earth, that means he created all these other planets. So why would they not affect one another?
Right. Absolutely.
That conversation was like ground shaking for me, because I was like, I kind of been, reading this stuff about like astronomy and like, retrogrades and blah, 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 blah. And that was way, way, way back then when my dad did all this studying. So he didn't know, all the new things that have been found out that have to do with things like retrograde. So I was explaining it to him, and he was like, wow, I never heard of that before. But like, that makes sense based on what I studied. My dad is such a, he's very balanced, but like, he's very book smart. He like studied the entire dictionary when he was a kid. He would literally just read books from front to back, no matter what book it is, the Bible, the dictionary, the thesaurus, like he just did that. So I trust his judgment on dang near everything. So, yeah, having that conversation and then like, following people like Haas and just seeing the things that she has to say and like, you don't have to go with everything. And there's nothing that that I've read that I've been like, oh no. But certain things you resonate with and it's just great. So that's her. Follow her on Instagram. And the reason why I say Instagram is because that's where she'll post pictures that have like the most important blurb, but then there's always something within the caption that explains more what she's talking about. So I'm actually going to read one of those now. And so this one says, we didn't understand as children that our parents still have work to do on themselves. And then the caption says, holding someone accountable for their internal programming is not the same thing as blaming them. Blaming goes back to fault, seeing someone's mindset, behavior, or unconscious programs as their fault. Accountability says it's not your fault, but it is up to you to change them. Being able to acknowledge that our needs were not fully met as children is a reality many are confronting. Contrary to the fact that this may be a sobering and triggering truth for our parents, it is not an attack on them. However, our feelings of disappointment, anger, frustration are valid and healthy. So I wanted to bring that up while we're talking about this subject, but also while I was talking about family, because I think that some of the anxiety that I had in different situations in regards to certain conversations with my parents definitely had some validity from conversations that were had before and me being nervous about what their reaction would be. But once you grow up and you see that, like I said before, me and my siblings are becoming friends because we realize that blood is really the only thing that connects us. We don't know each other. So we have to have conversation, being able to step outside of this is my sibling and seeing them as a person and realizing that sometimes we had to bump heads or sometimes conversations didn't work out between us because you were going through this and I was going through this. And it doesn't mean that anybody's at fault, but like we're all human. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like we often miss that when it comes to our parents. Which is why it's really important to have those conversations of like, oh, what were you like when you were this age? Or what was blah, 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 blah. So you see them more as a human rather than this is my parent, which we usually see as like super people.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
It's just like everything that they do, you feel like, you have to be angry about it. You have to judge them. You have to say, oh, my parent is not a good parent because they did blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, that's not necessarily the case. Once you step outside of that and be like, okay, I really feel like my mom or my dad could have handled that better. But realistically, there had to be something that caused them to be who they are right now that would cause them to react in the way that they did. And it may not be a personal thing about me. So I can now step outside of me being in my feelings or being so hurt that I'm not able to see them and maybe even depending on the situation, check on them and be like, I'm really interested in why you reacted that way. Like what in your past made you process that situation the way you did? And that transforms relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely think that part of my recovery was, especially in the beginning, my therapist would always ask me, where did you learn that from? And causing me to go back to the dynamics with my parents and learning, that they, while they are my parents, they are people that had full lives before, giving birth to me and raising me. And even just the complexity and nuances about my parents' lives, their relationship, their marriage. I mean, there's so many different factors. Like both of my parents were married before they got together. And I mean, obviously those marriages were not, very good because it didn't last. And I realized that sometimes I think to myself, I wonder like how that has impacted how my parents, interact with each other, like as a couple now, like learning from their previous marriages. And then like my mother, having my brother, in the previous marriage and like how that impacts our family dynamic with like technically my brother and I being half siblings. But we were never treated as such when we were younger. but like now as we get older, like I see how like that dynamic has really shaped how we have turned out, you know, for the good and the bad, you know. And so yeah, I think it's so important to like the quote says, like to recognize that like you may not be at fault, and it's not about blaming, but it's about taking that accountability to do what needs to be done to move forward in the reality that we are now aware of. And I think I've been able to be set free from a lot of things by reminding myself to humanize my parents and to show them grace, you know, when they miss the mark on things. Particularly like even just this past year of like me coming out, like my father and I have had some really difficult conversations, and I could just blow that off as like him like just intentionally like trying to get on my nerves or hurt me, but I know that it's coming from a place of his perspective and his reality, and like understanding that all the things that he's experienced in life informs, you know, where he's at with all of it. And not to say that I have to tolerate some things. Like I definitely think boundaries are like crucial, but also understanding that like at the end of the day we're just people and we're just doing the best we can with the information that we have. And we have to hold space for people to like go through their process, and like everybody isn't going to arrive at the same point at the same time, you know. And really just trying to walk in patience and grace as much as possible, while also like, you know, taking care of myself when I need to be. It's kind of like what people say, like I'm half Jesus, half Peter, you know, which side are you gonna get? You know, like I will love you and show you grace, but I also fuck you up if I need to. But woo, but yeah, no. I think that's really important. I've been following Haas for a while, and like every time I'm just like, yes. This
Yeah, she's amazing.
yeah. And to go back to your point about like energy work and the connotations that come with that, like I don't know, I think it was like easier for me. It was easier for me to like hop on board. Part of it was like because I grew up in an environment where like the whole like witchcraft, like demonic thing, like wasn't really harped on as much. So like, and as I look back on it, like there were people in my family that were like low key like mystic as hell. Like they were Bible believing Christians, but they also like, I had an aunt who like was really into like astronomy and, you know, other metaphysical type things, and was very like in tune with the spirit, you know. And yeah, so I think like growing up around that, like, and then also not having every little thing have this negative connotation of like, that's witchcraft, that's demonic, you know, it's easier for me to like see the good like work behind that kind of stuff. But I definitely like see what you're saying, because especially like as I like grew into a young adult, like getting more in alignment with like churches and ministries that like definitely like harped on that. And for a while I definitely was like on that train of like being so overly concerned about witchcraft and like trying to label everything. It's like, that's not of God, and trying to like be on this battlefield spiritual warfare trip. But now I've like really mellowed out to the point where I'm becoming the person that people warned me about. So I don't know. Yeah, like I'm definitely into energy work, which, I mean, when you really get into like the work that I do as a mover, like most of the people that I work with, like in dance, like we're all into energy work and like the metaphysical stuff, and like even just body work, like you were saying, like getting in tune with your body, the acupuncture and like, all of it. So like it's really cool. And I think once you get in tune with yourself, whether you have a mental diagnosis or not, like, but getting in tune with yourself, getting into your body, getting into your spirit, and like doing that work, whether that looks like you doing energy work, you going to therapy, like whatever, it's easier to like really manage like how you relate to others according to where you are, like mentally or emotionally, because like you were saying, like if I know that I belong to myself, then I'm able to navigate how I interact with others, how I receive other people's interactions with me, and knowing that like some people are just not for you, in this time. And it's like I said, it's not that they're a bad person. It's just that they don't have the capacity to deal with your shit right now. And that's okay. And that could be applied to you too. Like there are just some people that I just can't, and it doesn't change like my love for them or anything like that. It's just, we're just not vibing on the same frequency right now. And maybe later on we will, and maybe we won't. But like I always just hope and pray that like people find their people that are vibing on the same frequency to be able to like pour into you the way you need to be poured into in this time in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
that was good. Just so you all know, we're gonna I'm gonna be harping on Haas this entire episode, so just be ready for that. Because I actually have another quote here.
Yes.
And it's going into talking about the same thing in regards to significant others, love interest for me. So, Jesus be with me. No, I'm just kidding. So, I've only been in 2 actual relationships. And I mean actual relationship, meaning like we're with each other and we know this and it's me and you, baby, So the rest have been situationships. I have plenty situationships, but only 2 real relationships. So they were 2 very different relations. Like, oh my gosh, the difference, because the first one was in high school, and then the second one was like the end. They both were at the end. The first one was at the end of high school, and then the second one was at the end of college. So you can imagine how different I was from those times.
Yeah.
But I can definitely say a consistency. There were some consistencies because of the fact that in both of those relationships, I was going through depression. Not because of the relationship, but like before the relationship. And then I got into the relationship and it was real. And of course I didn't realize all this until recently. I'm still figuring out stuff. But I've really seen why I reacted certain ways, why, just all this stuff. And a lot of things had to do with anxiety and depression. And so one of the biggest things I can say is both of the people that I dated were theater geeks. And so
what you gotta say about us theater geeks?
I don't have anything to say. I just have to say that y'all are so dramatic and y'all play too much. Wow. And everything is a freaking game and a show. And the thing is, if you know me now that I've really like come into myself, then you know that I'm absolutely here for it. But during those times, I could not. I was way too fragile. And I just remember both relationships where they would just be joking and just playing so much and like, you know, trying to go on me, treating me, whatever you want to call it. And I could like laugh at certain things, but in other things, my feelings would be so hurt. Like I took everything so personal. But then I would be upset. That's that disconnect again, because in my head, I would be like, it's not that serious. Like, why are you hurt by this? Like, why aren't you laughing? But then my feelings would just be so hurt. And if you also know me, my feelings are strong. Like whatever I'm feeling, I feel it. Okay. So when my feelings were hurt, I was really hurt. Like we had to shut down for a minute so I can get myself together, because I would be so distraught. And that was an issue because, you know, like these are people who like to have fun, like to joke and all this stuff. And I think it may have came off as me maybe trying to like stop them from being who they were, or I didn't appreciate who they were. I'm not exactly sure. I never had these conversations because this was a newer thing that I realized was happening because of my mental health while in those relationships. But I could imagine that it would come off that way when really it had nothing to do with the person. And it was literally all about me and how unsettled I was within myself. And so that sounds so simple coming out now, but like that's one of those things that like once I realized that, my feelings were so hurt. Like recently, I mean like last week. When I think about it, sometimes I have to stop myself from being so upset because I can get into a space of being like, man, my mental health caused this in a relationship. Yeah, so I would feel a way about my mental health, you know, just causing issues in the relationship. And this is the thing, I truly don't even know if that was that big of a deal, but it just felt that way to me. It feels that way. So I have to stop myself from going to that space because, I mean, one, the relationships are over. So there's no reason to even be harping on it or whatever. I just try to take it as one of those things like, listen, this is what it was. This is something you can pay attention to. And I've also just said, once I first just realized that anytime I've been in a relationship, I've been depressed, I was like, yeah, we're not doing that no more. Now, if I become depressed while in the relationship, then that's different. But if I already know that I'm depressed, I don't need to be in a relationship because no, I just, you know, I need to take care of myself. So there's that. And then there's also the quote that I was talking about. Where is it? So this is also by Haas. It says, somewhere there's someone upset with you because they feel entitled to more of your energy than you are willing to give them access to. Pray that they find what they need within. So I read that, and I would like to read something like that and be like, yeah, but it was more like, damn, G, that was definitely me. Like I would really feel away if I was not getting a certain energy. Or even like my last relationship, something that was very new to me, because my first relationship, they wanted to be around me all the time. Like all the time. So much so that I was kind of irritated because I wasn't the happiest in that relationship. But my last relationship, it was like they wanted to be around me all the time, but at the same time, like they loved their space. But that was never a conversation we had, and that was something that I didn't know about them. Like it's a general thing. They don't care who you are. They want to spend time with themselves and will literally like not be on their phone, not be on social media, like for an entire day. And so because that was a conversation that we did not have, I was assuming like, wow, did I do something wrong? Like what what's happening. And then once they finally responded to me, because mind you, we were living in two different places, like hours away from each other. Once they finally responded, I was pissed because I'm like, how could you not just at least tell me like I'm chilling? But then I also couldn't get out of a space, a space that was like, not why wouldn't you just tell me, but what was I mad about? Why would you want to take time away from me? Like I took it personal.
Yeah.
And so I remember being so angry about that. And then being angry that like that would have been so simple had you just explained this to me before just like going silent on me. So honestly, I mean, I think I was right to feel the way that I did because there wasn't a conversation. And that's one of those things that, like I said before, that you shouldn't just keep that to yourself. There are certain things you need to tell your partner. But at the same time, it was a lot of other feelings going into that kept me from getting over it quick enough. Once we had the conversation, I honestly should have just gotten over it because it really wasn't that big of a deal. But like, I don't know, I just really felt the way because
Well, yeah, because it's like it says, like you're searching for that fulfillment that maybe can only be found within,
right. And I was trying to get it from them,
from the other person. Yeah. And not that other people can't help in fulfilling those needs. But I think it's important to note that well, I hesitate to say this because it's actually very funny. Like last night, I was in one of my group chats, and was kind of like giving, I don't want to say relationship advice, but just kind of, weighing in on some relationship situationship stuff with the other person. And one of the people in the group chat was like, oh, Abra, like now the relationship therapist. And I was like, well, it's really funny because I have actually never been in a relationship ever. Surprise. Yeah, I'm a unicorn. Okay, so, but I feel like some things are just like common sense in the sense of like how we relate to others. And I realize that I don't even really like it when people say in a relationship, because I think we all experience being in relationship with others. It's just different kinds of relationships. Like, so I guess I've never been in a romantic relationship. That doesn't mean I don't know what it means to be in relationship with others.
right.
And some things definitely cross over because we're human beings. So I think it's so important to realize and recognize that there is not one person on this earth that is designed to meet all of your needs.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to get it out of our heads that our romantic partners are there to fill a hole or fill a space for us, or all the holes in all the spaces. I think they may add to your life in very beautiful and colorful ways, but to come in with the expectation that they are just going to like complete you is a setup for disappointment, for failure, for heartbreak, just for a lot of icky things that could be so avoidable. Yeah, and I don't know, like I've really walked proud in my independence, I guess, kind of being like for a long time being like, I don't need anybody. I'm my own person, but also like being that sweet softie that's like a hopeless romantic and like wanting just wanting and desiring like others to to like fill those holes. But once I like come back to reality and realize like the greatest person who could ever love me is me. Like if you can't love you, if you can't be your best friend, you know, good luck. I don't know. So yeah, not to say that no shade to my best friends or anything, but
I mean, y'all still important, but y'all just can't give me what I can give me. That's all it is.
yeah, I mean, I think people are capable of reminding you, of helping you remember who and whose you are. And that's important, and that's why we need other people. But yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
But I also like I want to go back to the one thing you did say, like when you were like, well, if I'm depressed and I just don't need to be with anybody at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But why though? Like
I think it's just because I don't really know why I made that decision. Like, I mean, it clearly is just off of like, this has been the history. And so now I just feel like it's always just going to be bad if that's the case. But I definitely have thought about this in the way that you're about to bring it up, to just like, well, there are people who are like always depressed and they can be in relationships, they can be married. So it's just a matter of, I'm not sure that I know how to handle that when it comes to being so closely in relation to someone else. That's really what it is. I just don't know what I'm doing.
yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And it also goes back to what I was saying before about like even in my friendships, like when we didn't have the tools or the information to help us like walk through those things together in a healthy way. So that's why everything just blows up in shambles. You know. But
yeah,
yeah.
it's all a learning experience though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really the whole point of like why I wanted to talk about this, because I do think that I've learned a lot more when it comes to being in courtship with someone while I'm not my best self, because I've just learned more about myself in general, which has caused me to become a better me. But I don't know. It's I'm saying this to say that we had to have certain experiences to figure out, how to better take care of ourselves and how to relate to other people or not relate to other people. And I mean just choosing, like, some days you just have to not be around people. You have to know where you are and just being like, yeah, today's not the day. And that's really hard for me sometimes, because oftentimes when I feel that way, that's also when I want to be around people. So it's just like, okay, this is kind of annoying because I want to be around people because I'm not feeling my best, but then I feel like I also shouldn't, because the way that I'm feeling exactly, I can see me just like being overly sensitive. But then that's also when it's important for you to know your friends. There are certain friends you can be around when you're not in the best space, who you can tell like, hey, this is how I'm feeling today. I want to spend time with you, but like I need you to be more gentle with me. Those type of things. Not everybody is like that. So it's a matter of learning yourself, but also learning the people around you and who provides what for you. So that all comes through experience. And I know that we both have definitely grown so much from our experiences. And I know that we'll continue to grow in our experiences. And hopefully us having this conversation has been helpful for other people who don't necessarily know where to go from wherever they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, this was really, really great.
Yeah,
I love it. I have one more quote from Haas, though. Okay, wait, this is the last one.
Bring it home, sis.
So the quote says, "You will reach a point on your path where you do not require not one single person to understand or relate to you." So the caption that goes with that, she put in parentheses, "honor your vows." And it says, what if your divine mission is simply to be a vessel which transmits energy to earth from the heavens for all to see? Would you still have a problem shining your light then? You are placed exactly where you are needed for the divine role you are here to play, based specifically on your gifts and skills. The opposite of the Messiah complex is convincing yourself there's nothing special about you and ignoring your calling. Keep an eye out for both extremes. We are all special, and there's a divine reason each of us were chosen to be born. So I just wanted to end our conversation on that because one, it's super uplifting, but two, just to help people, I guess, relieve themselves, as sometimes we try to push ourselves to understand why we are a certain way, and or even when we understand it, you sometimes get to that point where you want other people to understand you so much, and not that it's not important at all for your relationships, but when it becomes a point of you spending so much time trying to explain yourself that you're not being yourself, then it becomes very draining. So people are not going to always understand you, and that's okay. Like you said, everybody's not even for you anyway. So some people just not going to understand because you're not supposed to understand. I'm not on your level, boo. So,
Right.
so you just gotta like realize where you need to put your energy in. And I always will say, definitely put your energy into understanding you and loving you, and trying to figure out what you can do to be your best self. And if people understand, then that's amazing. It's a blessing. And if they don't, then it's okay. Moving forward.
Yes. Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
And
All of
amen.
that.
This is a really, really great conversation. I'm glad we were able to have this conversation.
Yes, same here. It was needed.
Pretty life-giving, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Thanks. All right, we can move on into shameless plug.
All right. I really only have two. One. Let me just go ahead and address this one first. Last episode we talked about the anti-abortion laws that are happening in Georgia and Alabama, and Ohio, I think, is jumping on that bandwagon now. I know that here in Tennessee, like, it is, being talked about or moving forward. And yeah, I just want to say that I kind of want to clarify what I mean when I say I'm pro-choice. I'm not saying that, yay, abortion. Like,
Right.
nobody's saying that, okay? Like, nobody wakes up, and decides, I'm going to go get an abortion today. Like, you would be like, I'm going to go get a piece of cheesecake, okay? It's not fun, okay? Like, so nobody is saying that, but I do believe that abortion is a form of healthcare. And passing these types of bills and laws and trying to overturn Roe v. Wade, you're not going to stop abortions. You're just going to stop safe abortions.
Right.
So think about that. And so I just wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say that these like anti-abortion laws are not in effect yet, and this will be fought in the courts. So for now, like, what you can do to like help, I guess, or support people is to link up with organizations, especially like local grassroots organizations that are helping to fund clinics that provide abortion care, or any type of like reproductive health care, and also grassroots organizations that are helping to fight like at the legislative level. And I wanted to shout out a few of those organizations that I actually saw in a tweet, and then like it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It pulled me into doing my own research, basically. So particularly in the state of Georgia, there's Access Reproductive Care Southeast. The Feminist Center. There is SisterLove, SisterSong. There's Spark, Urge, which is Unite for Reproductive and Gender Equity. ACLU Georgia. Yeah, and then there's also Women Have Options, which is based in Ohio. Obviously, Planned Parenthood. The National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. And they definitely have a chapter in Georgia, and I'm sure they have other chapters in other states. And then the Yellowhammer Fund, which specifically is taking donations that will go to help fund for people to have access to get an abortion. Okay, so I will link all of those organizations, including their Twitter handles or websites, and you guys can go check it out and see what you can do. And then, do your research about, what's available in your state, in your city, in your town, and go support them. Put your money where your mouth is. Get out here in these streets. Do what you can to support that effort. And then other thing I just wanted to shout out is on a happier note to follow Found Movement Group on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Check out our website, foundmovementgroup.com. We've got some exciting announcements coming up. I said in earlier episodes that we, are getting our own space, and we're in the process of moving out of our former home, Nashville School of the Arts. They've housed us for the past 13, 14 years, and now we are heading on to new things in the Wedgwood, Houston area in Nashville. So just be on the lookout for more info of announcements of different things that we'll have for our soft opening and grand opening, and the many, many exciting things that we're working on. I literally was working on some things for Found before we started recording, and I just got really excited. So yeah, so just be on the lookout for that, and stay tuned. And that's really all I have for Shameless Plug.
Cool. Don't believe I have any. I thought about it earlier, then I was like, let me think one more time just to be sure. But no, I don't have anything going on just yet. We'll say that, just yet.
Right. Stay tuned.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah.
How long can we play a song? Isn't it like 30 seconds?
I guess. I don't really know. We'll see what happens.
I'm actually looking it up.
Okay, girl. I mean, we're not even really that big yet, so
True. This says, for instance, discuss a copyrighted work on your podcast, such as a movie or a book, but fair use does not give you the right to actually play clips of material or music without permission. Interesting. Okay, I'll just sing it just to be sure.
Okay.
I really wanted y'all to hear Layla sing it, but it's cool.
Go ahead,
Let me find a lower key, cause baby. Shoot. Hold on, I'm thinking of the words.
Uh-oh.
But you gotta believe that this ain't the end of the road. It's all a bad dream until you believe. And you gotta know the story is still to be told. Just breathe. Remember to breathe. There we go. I can my
Yeah.
4-leaf clover clutch tightly. Listen, if y'all don't know Layla Hathaway, you're behind. Second, if you don't know Layla Hathaway, you're very behind. But third, I'm going to tell you to go listen to that song. It's called Breathe by Layla Hathaway. And the first time I heard that song was actually in high school. My brother came to me and was like, I feel like you would like this type of music, and gave me her CD. Which CD is that from? Hold on, let me go back to. It's from her album called Self Portrait. And I listened to the whole thing, but I remember being stuck on Breathe because I was just like, something about this is just a thing. And then years later, I got a tattoo that says Breathe. And I was like, I forgot that was all like, that was my song. So now I kind of connect them because I was like, this song was a thing. So if anybody asks me what made me get it, it has to do with that song, but it also has to do with, like I said before, me having issues with breathing when my anxiety gets really bad. And so it's actually right under my right clavicle. Clavicle. I know that
Yes.
it's right under my right clavicle. Just to be like in the chest area, but not like on my chest, to remind me when I'm truly having trouble breathing. I see that. And it says breathe, and then a dandelion that's like blowing away is coming out of it. So it reminds me, like, just take a deep breath and exhale, and everything is going to be okay.
I love that. I love
explanation
it.
behind my tattoo. I don't think I've ever explained that to anybody, but yeah.
Yes.
So just breathe.
Just breathe, y'all. It's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine.
We promise.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Misfits and Mystics. We appreciate you.
A lot.
I'm going to put on my
so much.
My sex operator voice. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But this has been a great episode, and the next one will be too.
All right. Be blessed, everybody.
We want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. Continue the conversation with us. Develop a community with other misfits and mystics like us, and get your latest updates on Shameless Plugs and other news by following us on social media. We are on Instagram at Misfits and Mystics Pod, Twitter at Misfits Mystics, and we also have a Facebook page that you can like and share.
Want to reach us directly? Shoot us an email at misfitsandmysticspod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, and with your permission, we might give you a shout out on future episodes.
Don't forget to subscribe on whatever streaming service you're using to stay up to date on newest episodes being released.
Leave us a review on iTunes to help us gain more visibility. Plus, we appreciate the feedback.